What is up, everybody? This is your boy Is Nefarious, and I am here with another edition of your Premier Madden League Fantasy Football Report. For you, those of you that don't know, the Fantasy Football Report is based on the Premier Madden League and its stats and its players. So you're gonna see some names that aren't in the NFL yet, and then you're gonna see some names that are in the NFL. All games are through Premier Madden League. We only go off our stats. We don't go off NFL stats or anything else. So, um, that's pretty much the gist of it. If you're interested in the fantasy report in in playing in the fantasy pick'ems and you're in the league, all you have to do is reach out to me in my DMs is Nefarious, and then we'll be able to get you set up, and it's a free content point if you win. I mean, it's easy to put a lineup together, and you could get a free content point. So for anybody that's not in the league and want to get into the league, never mind get a part of that fantasy pick'ems, go to premiermadden.com and hit apply on the information bar. You'll fill out a form, and then you'll be able to your application will be sent right to our commissioner. And then if there's a tryout tournament or a PML tournament, you'll be notified, and you and a bunch of other users will get your shot at possibly getting that open slot in the Premier Madden League. Right now we are full. Not sure if we're gonna move somebody or not. I think we are. So if you're interested, premiermadden.com, hit apply, and then you could be a part of the um, most immersive league out there. You'll be able to, see all the content and hear all the gossip. I mean, our general chat period is a lot of entertainment half the time. So, like I said, if you're interested, go to that website, hit apply, and good luck to possibly getting into the league. Let's jump into the fantasy report. We're going to start with our results. As you can see here, these are our results from this past week, week 8. Fallen was in first with 123.94. Then we had Natural at 119.82. And then we had Me Is Nefarious at 118.46. And then we had Burn at 90.94. So, as you can see, Fallen got the win, eked out Me and Natural. He moves to he improves to his third win. Then you got Natural, who has one, and I have 4 total wins. So Fallen's right behind me. He has been taking over the statistics for me, so it seemed to be a curse at first. After he took over the statistics, he wasn't even coming close to winning. He finally got his win. He's got one more to catch up to me, and we'll see what happens this upcoming week in week 9, and we'll see who ends up taking the whole thing. Not really. You don't really get a prize for the fantasy pick'em, but it'll be cool to see who has the most wins at the end of the season. Let's jump into the team that he had. So this is Fallins Team. He rolled with Ben Roethlisberger as his quarterback, who got 6.04 points. And he had Saquon Barkley as his running back, one with 37.4 points. And then he had Ito Smith as his RB2 with 19.1. Robbie Anderson was his wide receiver 1 at 8.9. Then he had Sammy Watkins at 10.1 at his wide receiver 2. And then you had Evan Ingram with 0 points. He was actually still injured, so that was a bad scouting report by Fallen. He really didn't pay attention to the injuries. It was on league report, so he should have understood or noticed. But of his flux was Tamarion Terry, who had 30.4 points, and then his kicker was Eddie Pinheiro with 8 points, and then his defense was the Bears' defense with 4 points. So he got a grand total of 123.94. Even with that big goose egg from Evan Ingram and not getting any points from the tight end position, he was still able to, inch out the victory. 2 big reasons probably is Tamarian Terry and then Saquon Barkley, who both had really good games. But that's pretty much going to wrap it up for his team. Let's jump into the team of the week. So we got Matt Ryan as a quarterback. He had 338 yards for 13.52 points, and he had 5 passing touchdowns for 20 points. two interceptions for -4 points, and then -1 rushing yards for -0.1 points. He had a grand total of 29.42 points. Uh, Not surprising to see Matt Ryan on the list. They had a really good game last week. Uh, really spread the ball all over the field, and as you can see, he made the team of the week. The Atlanta Falcons offense is, I want to say, tough to stop, but then there's some users that it's easy to stop the Falcons, but I think it's tough to stop. I mean, you got Julio Jones, Calvin Ridley, and then you got his running back Ito Smith, who's been phenomenal. I mean, he's got a bunch of options, so I think it is a tough offense to stop. And as you can see, Matt Ryan is in his groove right now with the team of the week appearance. Let's jump into the running back of the week, and we got Nyheim Hines. It's been a little while since he's been on the list, I believe. He's somebody you usually see on the list a lot. One of the best running backs in the league last season, and so far this season his workload has been cut. So that's probably why we don't see him as much with all the injuries. But he had 210 rushing yards for 21 points, two rushing touchdowns for 12 points, two receptions for 2 points, and then 24 receiving yards for 2.4 points, with a grand total of 37.4 points. So a really good week from him, and a really good week from the Colts offensive line, really opening up holes for Nyheim Hines. And if he gets grooving, the offense in Indianapolis is gonna, take another step on a whole nother level. But he does have to develop a passing game if he wants to contend for the Super Bowl or anything like that, because it was shown in the Super Bowl that if he tries to just run on Mole, it's gonna get stuffed, and when he starts passing, he's turnover prone. So he's definitely going to work on that part of his game. So you might not see Nyheim Hines on this list as much, but it's nice to see him in his groove this past week. Let's jump into the wide receiver of the week, and we got Calvin Ridley, as I mentioned, with that Atlanta offense. Really strong, and Calvin Ridley makes another appearance. He has 12 receptions for 12 points, 214 yards for 21.4 points, four receiving touchdowns for 24 points, for a grand total of 57.4 points. So a really good week from him. And that four touchdown number is crazy. I think that might have even either tied a record, or I know it definitely didn't break a record. I don't think. I think four might have tied the record. But a really good week from Calvin Ridley altogether. I mean, what Julio Jones on the other side, he gets a lot of one-on-one matchups and a lot of teams kind of double Julio, and if you do that, Calvin Ridley's gonna get you, and as he showed there. Let's jump into the tight end, and we got Zach Ertz of the Philadelphia Eagles. First time on the list, looking like the Eagles is finally gonna use some of his weapons like Zach Ertz. He had 10 receptions for 10 points, 98 receiving yards for 9.8 points, and then one receiving touchdown for 1 point, for a grand total of 25.8 points. So a really good week from Zach Ertz. The tight end's dangerous weapon, especially on third down and things like that. He doesn't have crazy speed, but he's got great route running, great catching ability. It's a surprise that he's not used more often. Maybe it's just a style offense he runs in Philly, but he's a great tight end to use in every game. So you might want to focus on getting him the ball a little more, especially with his X Factor abilities. Let's jump into the defense of the week with the Jaguars. First time on the list. Last season seemed to be tanking. This season it looks like he's actually playing. Even though he just had a tough loss, gave the Texans their first win. He had 9 sacks for 9 points, 5 turnovers for 10 points, and then one defensive touchdown for 6 points, and allowed 7 points, which gave him 4 points, for a grand total of 25.8 points. So a good week from that Jaguars defense. This wasn't the game against the Texans. This was a game just before, I believe, against the Packers. The Texans is actually the current week we are in. But he played well. He's been playing well. Hopefully this past loss doesn't mean that he's back down back down the rabbit hole, if that makes any sense. Hopefully he doesn't, curl in, curl into the ball and give up on the season, even though he just had a really tough loss. Let's jump into the pick'ems. So as you know, this is these are three players in each position besides kicker that I believe is going to have a good week fantasy wise. Uh, for quarterbacks, I had Josh Rosen, Bryce Perkins, and Sam Darnold. Uh, when it comes to Bryce Perkins, he's going up against that Tennessee Titans defense, who's been terrible so far this season. And Bryce Perkins has had a really good season as a rookie. I believe he was top 5 in passing stats as a rookie. So definitely somebody you want to look at, especially with that matchup. Um, Polar's doing his thing with Bryce Perkins and that offense. So I would definitely look at Bryce Perkins this week. When it comes to running backs, I got Saquon Barkley, Bryce Love, and then I got Ty Johnson. When it comes to Saquon Barkley, he hasn't been getting the touches that he usually does. He's been somebody that you'll get above 10 points, but you won't get crazy numbers because he's not getting the ball as much. But last week it seemed to change a little bit. You saw the 37.4 points. Uh, I think against the Ravens, I could see him at least getting a couple touchdowns with Saquon Barkley. Maybe he doesn't get as many touches, but I could see a lot of yardage on a short amount of touches with a couple touchdowns. So I think a really good week is coming from Saquon Barkley once again. Let's jump into the wide receivers. So I got Tamarion Terry. I got Chris Godwin against the Texans, and then I got Jakeem Grant against the Patriots. When it comes to Chris Godwin, the first time on the fantasy pick'ems, he's going up against the Houston Texans, and like I said, the Jacksonville Jaguars um, are playing well, and this is based on before, so I kind of ignored the score at the end or any of the stats. Given the matchup, the Texans don't have a great passing defense. The Jaguars are playing really well. Tua's playing really well, and Chris Godwin seems to be his favorite target. So it's somebody I would look to this week as a sleeper pick, and as somebody I would throw in my lineup because he could have a really big game against that Texans defense. We jump into tight ends. We got Grant Calcaterra. We got Noah Fant, and then we got O.J. Howard. Noah Fant hasn't been as effective as last season. He's been really tough when it comes to pick'ems. He's not getting the fantasy numbers. I think this is the type of game where he could finally turn it around. I mean, I think that the Chiefs defense, looking at the Broncos offense, there's so much to gauge on. But you got Henry Ruggs, then you got Jonathan Taylor, and then Noah Fant. I think out of the three, Noah Fant's going to have the best game attacking the linebackers instead of trying to attack the defensive backfield of the Kansas City Chiefs. I don't think he's going to give up much over the top. So Henry Ruggs, I don't think he's going to get as much as he usually does. And I think Noah Fant over the middle and on short routes and once in a while hitting them on a seam route is gonna work. So I would go with Noah Fant against the Chiefs this week, even though it's a tough matchup. Then you take a look at the defenses. I got the New York Giants, I got the Carolina Panthers, and then I got the Dallas Cowboys. You take a look at the Dallas Cowboys, haven't really been on this list. They had a good defense last season and last cycle in Madden 19. Madden 20, it's been okay. It hasn't been great, but I like this matchup. It's a very inviting matchup. That Seattle Seahawks offense is struggling the last couple of weeks, even though they did have a good week against the Giants. But I think that was more to some lucky runs and things like that. So I definitely would go with the Dallas Cowboys this week. They've been really strong defensively, and I don't think the Seattle Seahawks have enough offensive power or offensive weapons to take advantage of that. So I think that's going to be a good matchup. Same thing with the Carolina Panthers against the Buccaneers. I don't think the offense has enough manpower or offensive weapons to really take advantage against the Panthers, and the Panthers have been playing well. So those are my fantasy pickups for the week. I hope you all enjoyed the video. That's pretty much gonna do it here, and I'll see you next week.